I prefer to use the word thanksgiving, which is a natural sense in us during anything contemplative or reflective or meditative. And I tend to like the word thanksgiving, but the word gratitude is very interesting, because it comes from the Latin, and it basically means grace. We have the word grace in English, don't we? And the word grace, and the word grace is really a gift. When we talk about the grace of God or the grace of life, it's about being in that gift. Grace is when we forgive, for example, if we go through a process of forgiveness, we place ourselves into a state of grace. It begins to neutralize all the sort of karmic processes, because we place ourselves into the gift of freedom of being. And so gratitude is a way of acknowledging the gift of being in us, or thanksgiving is. It's about that state of grace, of harmony or well-being, and being in the gift of what we are, and knowing that. It's I don't know whether I've explained that very well, but the word really means grace, and in that grace we are naturally thankful for our state of being. And in meditation, that curve flows through that process of being focused on eventually concentrating and letting go and going to a meditative state, and then a more contemplative state, particularly if you stop hearing my voice, which is always a good thing, into that more contemplative mode where, we're really having a dialogue on the inside. And then, of course, the full curve is thanksgiving, or adoration, as it's sometimes called, this sense of, wow, there's something amazing about life and me. And I've kind of missed out on it for a bit, but there's this amazing, wonderful quality of being that's in me. I just want to talk about love and fear a little bit this morning, because that is why I kind of did the meditation the way round I did, because in our society at the moment, wherever we are, we're being exposed, as we know, to this continuous drama of fear. This diet of fear that's being put out through the media virtually all the time, and I don't want to go too much into the so-called conspiracy aspect of it, because you can think how you choose to think, and you must always do that. Be loyal to your own thinking. But what is going on in the public domain at the moment over all sorts of things like fuel and war and food and inflation and prices, and they're still doing some of the COVID fear at the moment as well. All of these things are taking us away from what we truly are as beings. This focus upon shortage, limitation, of inadequacy, of powerlessness. All of these things are a denial of the true nature of the human being. And our whole process here on Earth, and this, many people find this surprising, but is to get the balance on this axis of fear and love, and to find the peace in the middle where we can express love more fully. And we are here to be creatures of love. It may surprise many people, it often does when I say that, but that is what the Earth is about. It's what our solar system is about. It vibrates on a frequency of the most remarkable love, wisdom, and understanding. And that is our role here, is the celebration and the expression of that divine, cosmic, universal, nurturing force that we call love. That's why we're here. It's the whole point. It's the whole point. And And of course, we have this kind of entourage of fear, I would call it, which seeks to take us in the opposite direction, and to make us more timid and more feel more vulnerable and less powerful. And then as a consequence, people become afraid and become less kind and less generous and more self-focused, because we get into the solar plexus and we want to protect ourselves. We want to, we want to make sure that we're okay. And so we then forget everybody else a little bit sometimes. We're kind of being still bombarded by the agencies that would, for some reason or another, quite like us to be in fear. And of course, fear is a denial of the truth. One thing we know through the heart only knows abundance. The heart knows kindness, generosity, abundance. An open heart is not selfish because it knows it doesn't need to be. An open heart is forgiving. It is compassionate. It is all the things that you would see as wonderful, uplifting, and creatively expansive. There are no limits in the heart whatsoever. There are no limits through the forces of love that flow through the heart whatsoever, except the limitations that we adopt in our thinking. And those limitations that we adopt in our thinking are the, if you like, the constrictions in the heart. It's very interesting, because people go on about different reasons for death. We've had a lot of talk about what was COVID, was popping up because of COVID, and then, people pop up because of cancer and this, that, and the other. Everybody ultimately dies because their heart packs up. Our physical heart packs up. We all die because our physical heart packs up. Not just the brain. I mean, the physical heart decides to stop going, and the heart is at the core of us. And this is why there's such a need for us to express our love for everything and everyone as much as we can, not by becoming excessively emotionally affectionate, but in the sense of genuine caring, that genuine, wonderful heart feeling. About a week ago, my 11-year-old granddaughter was having she goes to a Catholic school, and they were having their Leavers Mass, and it was the first time they were able to have it because they were going to the secondary school in September. And she's been at that school 7 years, love school, and there were all these children there. It was the first time for 2 years they could actually have a proper leaving ceremony. They had a mass. The priest said something rather special. He said, "Remember that you came to this school as strangers and you leave as friends." And I thought that was a fabulous idea. And what was so interesting was how much these kids loved their school and loved their teachers and loved the place they were in. And I can tell you, I was moved beyond belief. These young kids of 11, all full of hope, full of beautiful ideas, singing their heads off. It was so moving and so inspiring, and I was in tears. So I make no bones about it. Not just because of my granddaughter being there, but because of the children themselves. And there was such a wonderful feeling of love and connection and kindness and almost a kind of euphoria. And we are meant to be touched by that all the time, not just in odd moments. It should be our way of being, this kind, loving, appreciative, generous being. And I know it's not easy. I mean, because we've been so conditioned in the other direction to look at limitation and restrictions and can't do's rather than can do's and all the rest of it. But all of that stuff is a denial of who we really are. We're creatures of love. We're creatures of understanding. We are actually creatures of wisdom, great wisdom. And it's for us to celebrate that and to reclaim it in ourselves. And so a good thing to do is to meditate in the heart, to maybe, for a week or two, make that your daily dose and have a daily dose of connecting with your heart, with the forces that travel through the heart, because a loving being is what you really are, with what I really am, with what we all really are. And that is what the world needs right now. It needs people who are loving, who are kind, who are open, and who don't resort to the denial of that by everything that appears to be going on the outer side. Remember how powerful you are. And through your heart, you and I are incredibly, incredibly powerful. I sometimes think people think I'm a little bit sentimental, and I think possibly I am in some way. But I'm so grateful for those moments that I have where I simply feel my heart really pulled out to the surface, you know, almost like something pulling back the leaves or the petals that have been hiding it. And it brings to me a feeling of real joyful, loving celebration and thankfulness about life and what really matters in life. And what really matters in life is you and your capacity to love, to care, to understand. There can be no healing where there's no love. Love is the basis of healing. It's the fundamental point of holism. You know, health emanates through the heart, and emanates through that loving nature. And that is healing is about love. It's about a love and valuing of the flow of life in all its magnificence in every human being. We have a task on mentally to work with that and to kind of make sure that we are steadfast. That's a good word, isn't it? That we are steadfast and not knocked off course by the appearances in the outer world of limitation, fear, and all the rest of it. That takes us along the axis away from that loving, joyful peacefulness that the heart can bring. And that is what we're here for. That is what this planet is for. It's meant to be a planet of love, a planet of understanding, a planet of kindness, a planet of celebration. And you and I can bring that through ourselves. We can bring that through ourselves. And as long as I'm still alive and reasonably compass mentis, I really hope in my heart that I continue to do that and to value what is wonderful and what is good and what is beautiful in people and in life and so on. And there we are. Is there any questions that you want to put to me this morning? And anything about love and understanding, or about where we are currently? I mean, I'm not. I don't like the word conspiracy because it's not a word that's used very wisely these days. And I'm not suggesting denial in the sense of not ever watching the television or ever watching the news, but remember that it is an external game. What is going on is a game. I mean, you've only got to look at politics in Britain right now to know that it's some really ridiculous game, isn't it? But being aware of it is one thing, but don't possess it. Don't take it into your heart. Let your heart dictate what is on the outside, you know, and what manifests through you and what you energize and what you endorse. Don't be inner directed. The heart will direct you from the inside if you let it. So be inner directed, directed from the inside through and out. It's a wonderful possibility. You can all do it because you've all got beautiful hearts, you know, you've all got magnificent hearts. And the entire universe is seeking to operate through you in that way. So never lose sight of that. Never lose sight of that. And anybody got a question or want to pose something to me in the next few minutes? Yes. What did you want to say, Carol?
It feels really difficult to me because I've always tried to instill in my children the wonder of the world, nature, and things like that. But they seem more interested in monetary things and being up with the Joneses. And I try to tell them, slow down, take your time, look at the trees. A tree isn't just a tree. It could be an oak or an elm or an ash or a beech but I can't. They don't seem to like. They think I'm a weirdo.
Well, I think if your kids think you're a weirdo,
Help me!
it's a very good step forward. My kids know that I'm slightly weird, but they also know that within that strangeness sometimes there is a little bit of occasional wisdom that they like to have access to when they got problems or issues or.
Yeah, but they don't. They tend to. They have so much of their own life that we don't see them very much. And being an empath, I find it very difficult to understand them.
Well, don't worry about that. I'm going to. My advice is that whenever I feel I don't understand my kids, and mine are sort of in their late 30s, 40s now. What I do is I try to understand myself a bit more. And if I try to understand myself a bit more, then I find that I get to understand everybody else a bit better as well. And I was always believed that we should lead by example. And I'm not suggesting that you don't, but be the best you can be, and love your kids in the good, the bad, and the difficult times. And you will always find a space emerges in life where they turn around to you and say, actually, Dad, some of the stuff you do is actually quite interesting, really, or whatever. I mean, if I pray, I know that my kids in their own way pray. And I'll tell you a story. When my oldest son, who's now he's actually 40 this year, he's a bit of a comedian, and when he was at school at about the age of 11 or 12, the kids were being asked what their fathers did for a job, what their father's occupation was. And the teachers at the school did know me. I mean, I used to do a lot of stuff for school. But anyway, they went around the class and they got to Dominic and they said, what does your father do, Dominic? And Dominic paused and he said, well, have you ever seen that television program, Strange But True? It was a series about the occult. Have you ever seen that television program, Strange But True? Well, he's a bit like that, really. Strange but true.
I just want them to know. I want them to feel the love and the energy and stuff, but they don't like talking about it.
No, don't talk about it. Think it. Don't try to persuade them. You never persuade people to be loving. I mean, I've just done my best to kind of, connect with how I feel about it. But you'll never persuade people. You have to kind of live it as much as you can yourself, and have your conversations with them in your head and in your heart, where they don't want to actually hear it for a bit. And you can, in your heart, keep telling them that you love them and you care about them, and that's what matters. And then, it may sound like a cliche, but love changes everything. And if we kind of get into that place in our hearts, then, the kids will know it. They'll feel it. I don't forget that even, when they're teenagers and when they're older, they feel things very deeply, even if they won't admit it.
Oh yes, mine are getting on. My eldest is nearly 40 and all that, but it's like society has changed them, and it's like they break families away instead.
Well, that's a social thing that happens, sadly.
Yeah.
War, where families kind of separated and moved to different places. But keep them in your heart all the time and talk to them in your heart. Make it a daily conversation. That'll work wonders. That's what I do. I talk to my kids through my heart every day. And then occasionally I get a phone call that says, Dad, have you got a minute? Yeah, right. What is it? Can you have a look at this for me? What do you think I should do? And I say, well, the meditations. Yeah, I've been doing that. And if with your children, remember they have a natural heart connection with you. Even if you find the relationship difficult, they have a natural heart connection with their parents, and so you can work through that. But you don't have to articulate everything. Just think it in yourself and feel it in yourself, and that's contagious. Love and affection is contagious.
It is. I want to be myself in front of them, with them. I want to be open, but it's like I have to hide a part of me when I'm with them.
No, you don't. Yeah, but I mean, you know, you don't. I mean, sure. It took a long time for my boys to give me a hug, but that doesn't mean they don't care about me. They care.
Oh no, they do. They do that. But when I'm excited about something like spirit, I want to say to them, "Oh, so and so happened today," and that. But they're sort of like,
well, I've got
nice
one thing. I'll quote one thing here to Carol, and that is that many years ago there was a lady who came to see me, and she was a bit worried about what I did, but she needed advice because they were losing lots of money, and so she came into my office and she said to me, "Now look, I know you can help people." She said, "But you can look at me, but I want it without the spirits." And I kind of thought to myself, I don't serve gin and tonic or whiskey, but she said, "I want it without the spirits, you know." And sometimes some things are best not spoken, but it's important to think and feel them. And that's often the best way to communicate anyway, you know, because people just know. It's a knowing thing deep in the heart, isn't it?
Just knowing who you can talk to about it.
Yeah. I mean, people know I'm crazy, so I've got used to it. But
oh, me too. Even my grandkids, they whisper, they go, "She believes in
my grandkids are a great joy to me. They're a great joy to me, particularly when we go to the shops. Anyway, anybody else want to mention anything or say anything or ask a question about anything or about the open heart? Natalie.
Have you had any sort of information downloads about bird flu, what we can do apart from letting go of it and everything, or just what it's about, what's causing it? Yeah, avian flu.
No, I mean, the guys once spoke about foot and mouth disease, for example. They did talk about that. I don't know. I think the important thing is to not be afraid of it and to have compassion for the poor birds that are suffering from it. And I'm not suggesting we should take the blame for it, but you know, mankind is the beast on the planet that's supposed to be at the top of the pile in terms of consciousness. I sometimes wonder about that. And so we have a duty of care to those creatures and those animals. And I think we should go into our hearts and say, what is it in me that's creating this world the way it is? But I think we should always do that. What is coming through me as this highly creative center of being? What is it in me that's, you know, allowing these things to happen in my outer world? And it's a question of taking responsibility in the self sometimes. But with a specific thing like bird flu or even like COVID, you know, we have to clear it in ourselves. And whatever we meet that is, you know, painful, difficult, negative out there are two things it's doing for us. The first thing it's trying to do is to give us understanding about something. That's the first thing it's trying to do. If you've got a problem or there's something painful or difficult out there, the first thing is, what is it teaching you? What is it telling you? But now you may or may not discover that in an intellectual way, but at least being open to that is important. So what is it telling you? You know, and then bringing your heart and your love and your peace into the releasing of it and to the healing of it. Because it doesn't mean you've got to go around and give healing to every bird or whatever, but you can connect with the animal kingdom, with the birds, and say, look, I bring you my love, I bring you my peace, my healing, whatever, and you bring that to them in your mind. You can speak to them, you can talk to them, and there is a learning there, I think, but the learning is not necessarily the same for every person. It might vary from one person to another what the actual learning is. You know, I often joke, but it's not a joke, it's true. I've been talking to the virus, to the archetype of this whole process from Wuhan. And I still get the same message that you know, I say, well, why are we still having, you know, effects of this and whatever? And the message I get back is always, Well, mankind still hasn't learned. And one of the things it hasn't learned is its essential unity with all life, and therefore it should bring its love and its peace into all life. And this is a very important idea. Remember that everything that appears to be out there is in here. Everything that appears to be on the outside is actually on the inside. And that is very liberating, but it also hands over great responsibility. And we can't heal the world unless we heal ourselves. And we can't heal the birds unless we heal what is in us connected to them. And everything out there is a part of you. I talk to the trees. I was talking to my friend George down the road the other day, this great big tree. He's introduced me to a new tree called Mildred, actually. And it's funny, there was a television program in England called George and Mildred. But remember that if there's something going on the outside, there's something going on the inside. And if you go into your heart and truly seek understanding and truly seek to bring what you can through yourself to ease the situation, excuse me, to heal it, to bring harmony and wholeness into it, that's what you can do. I think that any dis-ease that we experience, whether we experience it personally or whether we experience it as a community, or whether we see it in animals or even in flowers and trees and so on, is indicating there's a dis-ease in us. If you witness it, then there's a dis-ease in us. So it doesn't mean we've all got bird flu, but what it means is that the vibration in us that allows bird flu to exist in our outer reality is vibrating in us somewhere. And one of the best ways to deal with it is through your heart, through loving, through blessing, through thanksgiving, and all of those things. And it places us in a very powerful state of grace where the forces of love flow through us. And then there's the possibility of healing and improving everything, whether it's bird flu, whether it's COVID, whether it's inflation, whether it's fuel prices. It doesn't matter what it is. If it limits, if it holds us back, if it impinges upon our sense of freedom, then it is nothing to do with the pure flow of the heart. And human beings are heart beings. That's why we're here. I can't emphasize that enough. And you can call me a romantic if you like, but I'm not a romantic. I'm quite a pragmatist in many ways. But I know that that's where the remedy lies, and I've always known it. And you've all experienced love. You've in different ways. You've all experienced those wonderful moments where you just feel great for being who you are, where you are with the person there or the people around you, whatever it might be. That sense of wow, wonderful, great, marvelous. It's like an inner amen, like we say at the end of a prayer. Inside the self, it says yes. And we've all experienced that because it's fundamentally, I believe, who we are and what we are. And so when it comes to bird flu, okay, there's something in me that's projecting that out there on the screens of life. Let me understand, please, what I need to understand, but also I wish to let go of it and to heal it. And then we go into our love and our blessing and our healing, whichever way we deal with it in that sense. So I've had no particular download on it, but I know how it functions. And I know that ultimately we are the creators, and as the creators, we have to make sure that our creation is given the freedom to express itself as fully as it can. Not everybody would agree with that philosophical approach, but after years of trailing through the psycho-spiritual realms, I've learned that that's the way it is. And it gives us great power. So love the birds, bless the birds, and all that stuff.